Christmas morning, after hearing the stories of the Nativity the night before, I often have in mind a picture, a painting that I saw in an art history class years ago when I was about a sophomore in college. I thought the painting was by Bruegel in the 1500s, but when I tried to look it up on Google, I wasn't finding it. Maybe one of you will recognize it when I describe it. It's a large canvas, and it pictures all the busy things that are happening in Bethlehem. All the people who are coming to be registered, all the buying and the selling and the moving about that's happening. It's a very active picture, enough that your eye wanders from here to there and doesn't quite know where to settle. And then off in a corner, one can notice a woman dressed in blue, sitting on the back of a donkey, which is being led by an elderly man. And then we realize that in the midst of all of this chaos, Christmas is unfolding. It's a picture that describes how God comes into this world in ways that we, in our busyness as human beings, often fail to notice. But God is coming nonetheless. Even if the people over in this corner of the painting who are busy buying and selling food don't know what's happening over in that corner where Mary and Joseph are looking for a place to stay for the night. Even if these people don't realize what's happening, God is coming into the world in a decisive way in a particular year, in the reign of Caesar Augustus, and showing us something extremely important that has salvific value for us today. Now let's take Bruegel's painting, or whoever it was by, that painting, and let's expand it outward with the kind of knowledge that we have today, beyond what there was in the 1500s. Let's expand it outward to that image we've all seen of Earth from space. The kind of picture we began to see when astronauts were circling around, when astronauts were up on the moon and they would look back on our planet from the vastness of space, the fragility of our planet, the beauty of our planet. It's on that planet, in a little city, on one night of a particular year, that the Word became flesh. Let's expand the picture out even further to the pictures we get from the satellites, the telescope, the Hubble pictures, of all the galaxies and those beautiful images that people until our generations never knew how gorgeous the galaxies, the stars coming into being and throwing off energy and light. That kind of beauty. And it's this cosmic level that our gospel lesson today is bringing before us. On Christmas Eve, we hear the nativity stories. We hear about a woman and a man trying to find a place at an inn. We hear about a young 14-year-old woman giving birth for the first time in the straw of a stable. We hear about shepherds in the field and angels coming to proclaim to them what had happened. We hear about a star rising that will draw people from far away to come and worship and adore. But our lesson today is taking us from this more immediate image of the vulnerability and the delicacy of Jesus. The devotion to the Nativity, when it was developed in the 12th century, actually was in order to draw our human capacity for love, to draw our capacity for love to this helpless, vulnerable baby, this vulnerable Holy Family, to draw out those feelings of care and nurture, draw those as a way to draw us to God. The lesson today is giving us the cosmic scale. That who was born, who was in that manger, is the God who created all that we can now see in the Hubble telescopes. The God who is the God of the parallel universes that the physicists now describe to us mathematically. The God who created and maintains and sustains all that is. Beyond him, nothing exists. There is no thing. That God, that power, abhorred not the Virgin's womb. As the verse from "O Come All Ye Faithful" puts it. Abhorred not the Virgin's womb. Now, whatever your beliefs or questions may be about the virgin birth, and one of the glorious things about being Episcopalians is we can have many kinds of beliefs, many kinds of questions, and we can all worship together anyway. Our faith is a work in process. Whatever your questions or beliefs may be about the Virgin's birth, the point that's being made is that the divine does not abhor becoming incarnate in human flesh. The big message in the ancient world and to our world today, it's not that the spirit is one thing and material existence is something separate, like they're oil and water and they cannot mix. The message of Christmas, the message of the incarnation, is that God, who is beyond and above and the source of all that is, chose to come and dwell in the midst of created nature, of human flesh. That's the mystery of incarnation. That's a truth that none of the other ancient religions or modern religions teach besides Christianity. That there is not this divide between spirit and flesh, that we know God chose to become enfleshed, and God continues to present God's self to us through material things, and God continues to yearn to be born afresh in us each day, every moment. This God who created all that is surrounds us with love beyond imagining, with desires for our well-being, for our joy, that are infinitely more than what we could ask for or imagine. That power of grace is surrounding us at every moment of every day, merely asking to be noticed, merely asking to be received. And so on Christmas, we have this quintessential moment where we can be reminded of how our God works. We can be reminded in a way that can help awaken us to God's presence, to God's love, surrounding us, inviting our response, moment after moment, day after day. Now, we've just finished Advent and begun Christmas according to the church year. According to the church year, as of last night, Christmastide has begun, and we have 12 days of Christmas. Now, the consumer world is done with Christmas. The Christmas carols will be gone. It'll just be a matter of returns and exchanges at this point. Okay. But we are Christians, and I would invite each of us here to claim these 12 days of Christmas, when all the busyness of parties and getting all those presents wrapped and cards sent and everything put together, now, that's finished. What if we entered into these 12 days of Christmas with a renewed commitment, a renewed curiosity to open up to all the ways that God is showing God's self in our midst? So, for example, last night, as we were shaking hands at the door after the midnight service, and one gentleman came through, and he was just, the beauty of the snow on the trees and how the snow just follows right along the top of the branch. No human could do that. Where in the course of these 12 days might some of the beauty of God's handiwork strike you? Just catch the glimpse of the beauty and let it open into awe. Let it open into thanksgiving that this God who created everything abhors not being present in our material reality. Many people are finding themselves stirred in new ways to bring about justice, to bring about safety for the children in our schools. We can see that as political agitation. We can also see that as a stirring of God's Spirit. God is present in each of those children who was slaughtered, just as God was himself slaughtered on the cross. God triumphed in the resurrection. Our God is one who can bring new life, unimaginable new life out of the worst that humans can do. Where in your thoughts, in your reflections, as you read the newspaper, as you talk to your family and friends, where might you feel an opening, a stirring to act for justice in the world? That is a movement of God not abhorring our human condition, but God wanting to be present and active in it. where in these next 12 days might you find a belief that you just accepted complacently explode into perplexity? Engage your mind and your heart to struggle to understand it at a deeper level. There is the work of God. In your mind, in your heart, in your spirit, desiring to come to life in a new way through your understanding. So, as we go through these 12 days of Christmas, let us go through them mindful of the God who created all things, being present in the material reality that surrounds us, being present in the people that we encounter, being present in us, trying to come forth, inviting us to become aware. As we go through these 12 days, the rest of the world may be busy, like in that picture that I thought was by Broyden, the picture that I described at the beginning. The rest of the world may be busy buying and selling, making returns, traveling, cleaning up all the mess. But let's keep our eye on God, who is coming to be with us, who is with us, who is trying to draw our attention to those, what seems like a little corner of the big picture. All the little corners of the big picture are bursting with the fullness of the love of God. This Christmastide, let us be present in that joy, in whatever moments God is able to capture our